And everybody sign in. Is Bun okay?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
He's there.
Okay, so there's 28 present and Bob Anderson is absent. And there's, of the 28, Supervisor Hanson and Supervisor Olson are online. Public notification?
Wendy Coleman, my executive assistant, has complied with Wisconsin open meeting requirements. Meeting agendas have been posted on electronic meeting notice boards located on the first and second floor of the Government Center and on the first floor of the Justice Center. A hard copy of the meeting agenda is available in the county clerk's office, and she's verified the proper posting of this meeting. This is the Barron County Board of Supervisors scheduled for February 17th. This agenda was posted on February 11th, 2025 at 10:41 a.m.
And our invocation will be by Pastor John Bergman from the Stanfold Lutheran Church. Pastor, somebody, do you know how to work the speakerphone there? You got to hit that little button so it's green.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to begin with two readings, one from Micah 6 and the other from John 17. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O man, what is good. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? And a second reading from John 17. I have manifested your name to the people whom you have given me out of the world. Yours they were, and you gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now they know that everything you have given them, that everything you have given me is from you. For I have given them the words that you gave me, and they have received them and have come to know in truth that I came from you, and they have believed that you sent me. I am praying for them. I am not praying for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. All mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I am glorified in them. And I am no longer in the world, but they are in the world, and I am coming to you. Holy Father, keep them in your name, which you have given me, that they may be one, even as we are one. I share before you that the Micah text is about the difference between living the letter of the law and living the spirit of the law. For oftentimes we get caught up in the letter of the law and we did it right, but we didn't do it out of mercy. We did it right, but we lacked justice. We did it right, but we did it our way and not God's way. Micah was trying to cause in the people of Israel at that time that the hardships they were facing were due to the hardships they brought upon themselves by their conduct and their choices. So I share before you today and invite you into what it is that the word of the Lord has come to us, is to embrace the spirit of the law, not just the letter of it. And Jesus in John 17 is a prayer that speaks to us today as much as it speaks to the disciples of that day. He's calling for a oneness. And in our country, I see so much division. I'm not assuming that here. I don't really know your board. But I know that it's easy to have division. I work in church for the last 35 years. I know division. Even with a small group of people, there can be division where we have a tendency to put our own needs first before even listening to the needs of others. So Jesus prays for me as he prays for you today. Jesus is eternal. So his prayer wasn't just for the disciples at that time period, but Jesus' prayer is for the disciples today. He prays for us to have oneness, to remember that we are from the Father and that the Father has given us to Jesus. And so in that, we have the oneness in Christ. And for today, I thought to conclude, I would use the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Let us pray. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Let us begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. I think I can say from my perspective that, not everybody thinks alike on the board here, but they are always respectful, and I think they have the best interest of the county in mind when they act. So, thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Special matters and announcements,
Matt, I'd
Jeff.
like to read this commendation.
Sure.
I'd like to read what was written about Officer Andy Craneville, who was chosen, recommended as the school resource officer for this year. And it's just three short sentences. In the heart of our Barron Area School District, one name stands out as a beacon of trust, safety, and compassion. Deputy Andy, who was just recently named School Resource Officer of the Year by the Wisconsin Juvenile Officers Association in collaboration with the National Association of School Resource Officers. He will be recognized at this year's convention in March. Deputy Andy has become far more than a law enforcement officer to the communities he serves. He is a mentor, protector, and friend to the students and staff who rely on him every day. We are truly grateful for his service to the Barron Area School District, and I can think of anyone more deserving of this great honor. Diane Tremblay, Barron Area School District Administrator. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Jess?
I emailed out earlier this month for invocation for the rest of the 2025 county board meetings. I did almost 50 emails, and I've heard from 3 pastors. So if you have any contacts, please have them reach out to me, and we can set them up for one of the meetings in 2025.
Okay. All right, item number 5, approve the agenda. Motion by Supervisor Cook, seconded by Supervisor Heller. Anybody have any problems with the agenda as laid out? Not, let's vote. Juan, can you go visual or somehow let us know what your vote is? Or Supervisor Hanson, I mean. Yeah, we can't unmute him either, I guess. Okay. Oh, we just have one abstain. Okay. Okay, Ed, a motion carried, 27 yes, 1 absent and 1 abstained. Thanks, everybody. Item number 6, approve the minutes of the January 13th, 2025 meeting. Motion by Supervisor Langman, seconded by Supervisor Patty Anderson. Any concerns with the minutes? Not, let's vote. Audrey, I think we're waiting on you. Oh. Okay, 27 yes, 1 abstain and 1 absent. Thank you. So the minutes are approved. Public comment. We have two of them, Dennis and Walter. Which one did you decide who wants to go first? All right, Dennis, would you come up to the podium and state your name and address?
Good cold morning to everybody. My name's Dennis Rochelle. I live at 1228 18th Street in Barron. I've been here for about 10 years, and I'm commenting about the 980 committee. I was here last time looking for the minutes of it. I read some minutes. Most of it was in closed session, so I didn't get to read it. Now that everything's done and over with, those closed meetings should be open to the public to look at. I'm asking for those minutes. Also, I looked at the editorial that came out from the editor the other day, a couple weeks ago, and he commented that the Justice Center wasn't a viable option. It's a Justice Center. It's a, I tell you, it's a jail. It's a prison. But yet, you set out in the county of residents out there. I'm sure it's got security cameras all over the place. What did it cost us? And I can't figure it out. You know, we're spending a ton of money on these people. And I know it's the law. But no one's ever asked the question of all you. What did they give the victim? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They didn't get no treatment. They ain't going to spend thousands of dollars on these people. Absolutely. Yet we can give the perp all the money in the world, apparently. I think now that Quinn is now on the Joint Finance Committee, that's where the purse strings are in the state. We should be asking him what we can do. The other thing I gotta, it just baffles me. They say that hockey built around the Justice Center and everything else, hockey rink and everything else. Reminds me of the town of Lafayette where I grew up into, down in Chippewa County. We have a little airport out there, like you do here in Barron. All of a sudden they started developing this community. Oh my gosh, the airplanes and the skydivers in it buying the place from Tom Olson. But the skydivers, oh, they're making such noise. All about money. You know, the skydivers put that, or Tommy Olson put that in there in 1961. And now they developed it. I can't help it. That airport's in there. You knew it when you developed it. Leave it alone. They knew it when they built that stuff out there by the Justice Center. That's what it was made for do. And today, still, you got a non-conforming entity out there in your county. It's not part of it. I mean, you got security, it's a containment. These guys did not commit a small crime. They committed a big crime. And otherwise, the guys in the Justice Center, they didn't steal from the boy and the milk money. They didn't take Girl Scout cookies. They didn't take anything from the Boy Scout popcorn fund. These are the people in the Justice Center that are just as bad as those that are sitting in that jail right now.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Walter?
Good morning. Walter Herman, 1708 12 3/4 Street, Barron, Wisconsin. I'm going to speak also about the 980. I call them royalty guests. That's basically what they are, next door neighbors to me. And I'm sure everybody would like to know how they're doing. I see it all the time. They're getting waited on hand and foot. There's always a vehicle there when they want a pizza or when they want whatever. They always get treated very well. But I'm a little bit disappointed. I'd let you know, Jeff French and Mr. Minch, that I asked you specifically in public here in front of your county meeting here for at least from these 980 sex offenders, and I did not hear back from you, unfortunately. But Romaine Quinn finally did come across one, so I do have one, thankfully. I don't know what the big secret is, and what Dennis is asking, what's the secret about these minutes? I don't get it. I really don't get it. What do you got to hide? Like he said, it's all over. The minutes should be public. And I totally agree. You know, it's absolutely sickening why these people too get treated like royalty, and they do, when the victims, they're living in fear. You ever think about that? These 30 victims and one person died, and I don't get it. And I agree. You're adding on to the jail. Why can't these two victims of, or not victims, they're rapists, be housed there where they can come and go, where you're very close to law enforcement? I think you would probably agree with that, right, Mr. Fitzgerald? Why can't they be housed there? Find a room in there while you're building on here for these two, please. And just a quick message here too, with, and this happens to be a little bit different, but it's the same. I brought it up last time about, can't be forgotten, should be continually reminded about the $4.5 million screw up here with all these buildings. And it's just written off as a joke almost that it happens. Well, I hope someday it won't happen when Elon Musk gets enough time to come and audit us instead of hiring a liberal auditor out of Milwaukee and find the bottom of that too, where that money really went. That would be really nice. Probably won't happen, but to me, it would be nice to get somebody that really, really gets concerned, you know, with Trump administration doing what he's doing and everything. Remember tomorrow to vote for Brittany in the superintendent election, and let's get this country on the conservative track. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Item number 8, presentation on the Family Recovery Court. Judge, are you taking this?
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Last year, Laura Doberine and I gave you a presentation about Family Recovery Court. We gave you lots of figures and numbers, but it really affects people. So this morning, I know a couple of the members have seen this video. There's a 10-minute video that was produced. This is, it's actually a promotional video to get people to join Family Recovery Court because it's a voluntary court. I want to show you the video and then we'll talk a little about it and answer any questions you have.
Because of Family Recovery Court, I got my kids back. Because of Family Recovery Court, I was able to find happiness and peace.
Because of Family Recovery Court, me and my daughter are now finally stable in a healthy, happy home. I've never had that before.
I've been a judge for 20 years. Prior to that, I was a district attorney for 20 years and handled CHIPS cases. Many of those cases where parents could not solve their addiction problem and lost their children. This is a comprehensive program giving services to parents that they may have never had. I've heard a number of these parents who had other services in CHIPS court saying, boy, I wish I'd had this before so I could get my child back or not lose my child. It's a evidence-based program where parents receive the services that really help.
I had started out drug usage at a very young age. My whole life has kind of been revolved around it. I dropped out of school when I was in 6th grade. I don't remember ever having a real life, you know, and now my daughter is at risk of getting sent to a foster home, and that was kind of my make or break moment. You know, I could either get myself together or I lose my daughter, and, you know, like, I finally realized how important my daughter was to me.
I got into Family Recovery Court because I had an overdose. I was addicted to opiates and methamphetamine, and the overdose kind of gave it away that we were having problems. So I had a CPS case and they took my kids away. And so that was really the thing that I needed to kind of wake me up and know that this was a really huge problem and that I really needed help.
I was addicted to meth and had my kids taken away. And we had a CPS case, and I was offered FRC.
One difference between a typical CHIPS case and Family Recovery Court is the holistic approach that Family Recovery Court takes. So in a typical CHIPS case, you are going to get a lot of services, but Family Recovery Court really treats the whole family. So if you have a partner or are living with somebody, they're going to come along too, and we're going to support them because we want to keep that family unit together.
I know I finished my parent aid today, and I
Let's give them a hand for finishing. We also need to have parents show that they can be a real parent, because many of these people have been addicted for a long period of time and really don't have parenting skills. So parents receive parent aid training, how to budget, how to keep an apartment, get a driver's license. We help them find jobs. We need these parents to be real parents, not just someone who has children in the home, but can really be the parent that these children deserve.
I mean, if I hadn't joined, I would have never been given the skills I needed to be a successful sober parent. And with the accountability of needing to go to meetings each week, it gets you in the routine of living a healthy life that most people don't know how to live a healthy life, let alone someone newly sober.
Jordana, tell me, you've had a lot happen in the last 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness, have I ever? Okay, so
all these studies show that having this frequent contact with the judge, including all the services there, these parents have a much greater chance of successfully solving their addiction problem, becoming better parents, and keeping their child at home or getting their child back.
I went through dad's coaching, and it made me realize how much the small things really matter. So I started focusing on a lot more when it came to Arabella. And then when I started to focus on all that, everything started to fall into place. Then mine and Arabella's relationship became just crazy. It was just me and her started to flourish and just become so close.
I had set goals that I didn't even know that I wanted to achieve. And then once I actually started to achieve them, it made me more motivated. So once I achieved one, I was like, oh, I'm actually capable of doing that. So then I would achieve the next one and then the next one.
That shows a lot of growth on your part too, so let's give her a hand. You know, many parents think they can do this on their own. They've had short terms or periods of sobriety, but it's never lasted long term. Our Family Recovery Court really gives the parents the tools, the knowledge, and the support so that they can keep their children long term. I can always count on you for entertainment.
Gaining that trust for my team, I think everybody struggles with that right off the bat. Once I kind of let my guard down and realized, these people are here to help me, not to hurt me, I think that's really when things started to click and move in the right direction, is just being able to be like, hey, no, everybody here that is working on my team wants what's best for me.
You've made lots of progress here, so you ought to be proud of yourself. Because we've had a couple of cases together, haven't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wouldn't you say this is the best you've ever done?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I realized after the first couple months of being in that the team might seem like they were coming at me in specific, but there was a reason for it.
The team is here for you. The team isn't here for themselves. They're not here for anybody else but you and your child.
It was something that really helped me actually realize everything that they had me do built a toolbox and a foundation to my recovery that I need on a daily basis.
So I got happy because, this is the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. And that's one of my biggest ones. And a good dad
the most impactful thing that I've seen is the joy in parents' faces when they get their children returned. Many of these people thought it was hopeless, and now they've been a success. And it's great to see a success, and also the benefit that these children get because they deserve a mom or dad who's clean and sober.
So for the first 8 months that I was in the program, because she got placed with her dad, she told me, no, Mom, like, I'm not going to come and live with you ever again. Like, I don't trust you. Probably 9-10 months into the program, she came home one weekend and saw that I was getting my own place and the other girls were coming home, and she decided, she's like, I want to live with you full time. I want my mom back.
It's scary getting sober, and you can't do it alone. So to have the support of this program and other people in the program is only going to help you. Like I said before, I truly feel like I was meant to get sober at the moment that I did, and I believe that God had a plan for me and a purpose for getting sober at that moment when I did, when the program was starting. And I think that I survived the overdose for a reason.
Every single day I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, smile. Some days I might not want to come out of bed, okay? But I still wake up and I'm happy on my way to work, you know? And that's because I got sober. That's because of Family Recovery Court. Without this program, I would probably be in prison. And that's just me being completely honest, because I would have never stopped. You know, I wouldn't have realized that life can actually be this way.
Just want to share with you a little bit. You know, our Family Recovery Court is in juvenile court, so nobody can watch what we're doing. So it's kind of the unsung program that we have. And it's one thing to give you statistics all the time, but it's another to see what happens to real people. Go back to 2018, we had 110 children out of home, placed out of home in our county, which was a little less than Dane County, which is 10 times our size. And this is really because of the meth epidemic. There was a meeting, and I still remember it, the judges, Carla Broughton, who's program manager, and Stacy Frolick, the head of the Department of Human Services. We came and we said, we need to do something different. This is not working. You know, as the pastor said, it's, you know, you can follow the law, and we were following the law, doing CHIPS cases, and it wasn't working. And being placed outside the home for a child is traumatic, and that lasts with them for their entire lives. I am really pleased to say that this last January, we have 33% or 33 children out of home, and about 40% of those are with relatives. I mean, that's a huge turnaround for us. And what it means is life is better for a lot of children here. We average about 12 to 18 parents in Family Recovery Court. If I have 18, that means they each get 5 minutes. We do this every other Tuesday for 3 hours. We have an hour and a half staffing because we need to talk about what they've been doing, then an hour and a half court. But if you have some questions for us, you know, you really need to know how it impacts people. We do a lot here. We talk about money all the time, but really we are here to serve people.
Supervisor Schradel. Bill, you want to turn your mic on?
I was going to ask the judge of these two ladies, have you found a a common, you've been doing it for a while now, have you found a common denominator which these people got involved? Was it a poor home life when they were growing up, drugs, or associating with the, people they shouldn't be associating with?
There's a number of those, but I say the main denominator is that they all had traumatic lives.
Yep.
Okay, as children. We're trying to break the cycle. You know, this is generational. By changing the cycle, if you change it as a child, otherwise these people end up in criminal court too because they have traumatic childhoods. We're trying to stop the traumatic childhood. And so it takes years. It's not an easy fix. It's not a miracle, but this is generational and we're working on it.
Yeah,
Thank
I would
you.
say, so I'm Carla Broughton. I'm the Youth and Families Program Manager here at Barron County. Many of the families that we work with, we've worked with before. You know, they came through our system, we worked with them, they got sober, children removed, and then we would see families come back into our system. So I think to Judge Babler's point, many, many people we're working with starting use at a very young age, 10, 12. Some of the people on the video, the successes are the one gal, Amanda, she's going to UW Eau Claire right now to become a social worker. Hopes to do her internship with us next year, and I hope we have a spot for her to hire her when she's ready to join the workforce. Our recovery coaches that work with families, they are folks that have they have graduated successfully from recovery court, and they sit on the team now because as professionals, we can go to all kinds of trainings and we can do the best we think we're doing, but it's somebody who's actually walked in those shoes. They've had child protection cases, trying to get sober with your children back in the home. One of Judge Babler's points of our children in out-of-home care, the children who parents are in family recovery court are in the home. So it is also a lot of services and support to assure that those kids are safe and that parents are getting better with their children with them. We have reports of people, it's first time ever that they've been ahead 3 months in their rent. First time ever that they've been able to buy their own vehicle, own their own home, going to college. The one gentleman, first time ever in his life, he had a Christmas tree in his life. And so that he can now share that with his daughter, it's just been some remarkable stuff that a lot of great people that live in our community that, they're living in our community. And so wouldn't we rather be working with families to help get them sober and working jobs and living amongst us? So that's some of the anecdotal stuff that, you don't often see because it's in closed session and, but it's pretty remarkable.
Supervisor Cook, you had a question?
More of a comment, and you touched on it. I mean, this is where I like to see tax dollars go because this is truly preventative. We throw in this county, we throw millions and millions and millions of dollars, and we don't cure anything. And the gentleman, he said, hey, if I didn't go through this program, I'd be in prison at $100,000 a year to taxpayers, and we rehabilitated no one, and we have a child who's going to repeat the same thing. So my hat's off to you. I mean, to take a number from 118 to 34 or whatever that number is, that is huge. And the other thing I like about this program, and maybe it's not part of the program, is when they start referring to our Lord and Savior, that they have a purpose and a meaning to their life. And I don't know if you do that actively, but if that's a result, I'm all for it. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Patty Anderson.
Hi, thank you again for sharing this. I had seen it before at HHS. After they graduate, do you follow the families for a certain amount of time, or do they have to report back or anything like that?
So part of the program is the 12-step programs and some type of treatment. And then after, in fact, it happens on those Tuesdays after court, they have an alumni meeting. And so that's also part of their requirement is that they continue to be a part of these meetings with the people that they've built these relationships with in court. So yes, we follow them in the sense that our system would know whether or not we have a relapse or a lapse and we have involvement again, but otherwise, other than through alumni, and hopefully they want to become recovery coaches or peer support, so we keep in touch with them.
Supervisor Turcott.
Once again, thank you. The video, I've seen it before through the Criminal Justice Collaborative Committee, but can you explain to them how this program is funded? Just to kind of touch on Supervisor Cook. Thank you.
So we originally, so it was 2018 that we had so many kids in out-of-home care. In 2019, we wrote for a federal grant through the OJJDP, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And that first grant was right around $650,000 for a 3-year grant. We had our first enroll in August of 2020, so the fact that we launched in the middle of the global pandemic, we were pretty, we figured out technology and safe ways to do that. And then we wrote for an enhancement grant, which we received last year, 2023. And we have that through 2026, and that is around $896,000 federal dollars. So we've had that grant money where we get technical assistance to help us build this program. They're from all over the state, and they've come here. They've shadowed our courts and give us feedback. They shadow our they do focus groups, speaking with people who are going through Family Recovery Court, and then mostly we are trying to build this so that it's sustainable with our current budget when we no longer have the grant. Because we know that too. It's like, well, that's all great. You get this grant, you build this big program, and then the money goes away, and what are you gonna do? And so it's to our courts that have carved out time on those Tuesday afternoons. It's to the staff, it's to the recovery coaches that we've really been trying to say, you guys would be paying me anyway. Like, you're already paying people to do their job, and so it's looking at how we can do our jobs differently to make sure that we're actually helping people.
Thank you, Judge, and congratulations to your team. I can't say enough. You truly are a huge asset to this county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 9, presentation on borrowing for the jail Sallyport. Sean here? Oh, there you are. Couldn't see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that's going to be a tough one to follow up behind the judge there, but we'll do our best. We've got a presentation this morning, and I've got Jody working with me to go through it with the full board. We went through this with the committee a couple weeks ago to discuss the financing, and we'd like to do that same for the full county board this morning. And when Jody, perfect, right on cue. Thank you, Jody, as usual. Jody, if you could scroll to the bottom of this particular chart, and if possible, enlarge that sources and perfect. Okay. So for the county board as a whole, I know you've been talking about the Sallyport project, some roof improvements, and what we've talked with the committee and with county staff about is putting together a combined financing plan for those projects, which are described in the Deposit to Project Construction Fund, along with, as the county will remember, late in 2024, you did some interim financing for some capital projects of the county, with the concept being that when a final decision was made about the roofing and the Sallyport project, we would combine these two into a single long-term financing issue rather than do two separate financing issues. So the plan we're talking about this morning combines a long-term financing for that last year's capital improvement short-term issue that you did, as well as financing for the Sallyport and the roof replacement improvements. And based on current estimates, we anticipate the size of that issue will be $5.925 million, $5,925,000. Then Jody, if you could scroll to back up to the top. Great, thank you, Jody. What you see at the top of the screen here on the screen right now is the proposed 20-year repayment schedule. So annual principal and interest payments to pay the combined financing that I just described back, the $5,925,000. The interest rates that you see, 360 for the maturity due in 2026 next year, to 470 for the maturity due in the final year of 2045 are based on current market conditions plus about 0.5% or 50 basis points. So we're hoping this is a conservative projection of what the impact of the total financing will be. Then for the county board, for your budget, starting with the budget you will do next fall, we're estimating somewhere around $455,000 in additional dollars to pay back the principal and interest on this new issue. Again, starting with the budget you do in the fall of 25, and those payments will be due in 26. And as I'd mentioned, the interest rates we're using for this projection are about 0.5% above current market conditions. The process that we've gone through in the past is we'll take competitive bids and present those bids to you at a future meeting, at which time you'll have a final decision to make on accepting the financing by accepting the best bid that we received at that time. And I'll come back to the timeline here in a second. Jody, if you can go to the next slide.
Do you indicate a year that we could pay the thing off in early if we wanted to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jody, if you would go back real briefly to the previous exhibit. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So as I'd mentioned, we take competitive bids on the financing, and if the county board accepts the winning bid, you lock into those interest rates for the full 20-year period. So if interest rates were to rise significantly from the point that we lock in, the county will have locked in, and you're fully within your right to pay this issue off over the full 20 years with no reason or anything forcing you to change the interest rates. But as the chairman pointed out, we also put a provision in the issue that if interest rates go down, at some point in the future, the county would have the ability to refinance the issue, or if by chance you have excess funds and you feel like it's in the best financial interest of the county to make prepayments on this issue, the question the chairman is asking is, when can you do that? And on this issue, it would be 8 years in to the 20-year issue. So in 2033, if interest rates were lower and the county wanted to explore refinancing the issue because you could lock into lower rates for the rest of the term of the issue, the county would have that option starting in year 8 or any time thereafter through the final payment in 2045. So let's say we got to 2033, interest rates are pretty much the same, and we do an analysis for Jeff and Jody and says, you know, you're not going to be able to save any money by doing this now. But 2 years later, in 2035, interest rates go way down, hypothetically at that point. If the county wanted to take that action and we could save money, you would have that option again starting in 2033 or any time thereafter. Okay.
Supervisor Heller, you had a question?
Yeah, looking at the principal, is there a reason that at the beginning we're paying off not consistent amounts of $10,000, and then toward the end it goes up into the $15,000 or $20,000 amounts higher in principal, that we wouldn't be paying more at the beginning when the interest rates are lower?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Let me go through how we accept the bids, and I think that'll help kind of answer that question. When we get the bids from prospective purchasers of this issue, the way they bid it is they give us an interest rate for each maturity. Now, it can be the same rate for the whole issue. We're not precluding them from doing that. But typically, they'll give us a lower rate for the earlier maturities because ultimately there's less risk of payment on those maturities because they're sooner. And that's what's generally called the yield curve, where interest rates at earlier maturities are lower than just interest rates at later maturities, which we're waiting for up to 20 years before you make the payment. So the result of that, if at the end of the day, we want to have a schedule that has the same payment, roughly speaking, each year, kind of like your home mortgage, we have the same payment every month. If you want to have that same payment earlier in the life of an issue, a 20-year issue like this, you're going to pay less principal and more interest. But as you go through the life of the issue and you've paid more and more of the principal off, you're going to pay more principal at the end. Again, very similar to a home mortgage, and lower interest payments at the end. So if we wanted to pay more principal with the interest rates at 360, we could do that. But what the board would need to understand, this is one of the questions that the committee asked about as well, is that total payment, instead of being $450 a year through the whole issue, it would be higher in the earlier years. And then that would be more of a tax impact on the county taxpayers in the earlier years. So it's really that question of kind of balancing all of these moving parts. What's the best approach overall from this elected body and from the committee that you feel best way of handling it? We could pay more principal early, but again, the trade-off is we'd have a higher tax impact on the taxpayers because of that. Okay. All right, any other questions on this particular exhibit? Great. I think, Jody, if we go to the next one, just a quick review. When I've been here before with the county, I've discussed that the state does limit our ability to issue this type of debt to finance county projects. General obligation debt, strongest collateral pledge that you have as a county. It's backed by the full faith and credit, your ability to levy taxes to pay it back. Your limit is 5% of the equalized value of the entire county. That's over $350 million. And then, Jody, if you scroll down, Barron County has always been, in terms of the use of debt, you've used general obligation debt very conservatively. And what you can see here at the bottom, well below 50 million, is the existing debt in kind of the pale colored, and then the proposed new debt in the green color. This is how much borrowing capacity or GO borrowing outstanding you'd have. And you could see there's a significant difference between the limit the state has on you and how much general obligation debt that you have outstanding. So the county has used this tool very conservatively, focused on capital projects entirely in the past. And you could see that even with this issue this year of about $5.925 million, you still have an extremely high amount of capacity remaining if and when you choose to use GO debt to finance future projects of the county. Okay, Jody, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, just quick, you touched on it versus a personal loan where we make monthly payments. If I'm understanding, we make a yearly payment here. Why, maybe this is for Jeff, why don't we schedule monthly?
Yep.
To save interest?
Yeah, and I was talking about an annual number. In truth, what we do is we make semi-annual interest payments and one annual principal payment. And the reason for that is that's generally how municipal securities are sold in the market, with that semi-annual interest payments and an annual principal payment. Okay. All right, Jody, if you go to the last exhibit. Now, this exhibit is probably the one that's the most meaningful and the most important for the county board members to understand. Again, we use those same two colors to reflect existing debt of the county and the new debt. The pale color is the existing debt that the county is levying to make payments on currently. So this year in 2025, it's about $2 million. Next year, with some debt that you issued late in 24, you'll see there's a small increase for the levy up to about $2.2 million. And then the green is that new $450,000, approximately $455,000 for the Sallyport and the refinancing of the short-term note you did last year, as well as the roof replacement projects. And you can see that that will result in, for next year's budget, and this is something that the committee talked about, there will be a higher debt service total payment for all of the county's general obligation debt, both existing and new. We're estimating that, again, and about that, I think you can see on the chart, between 2.5 and 3 million. I think it's around 2.6 million, 2.65 million in that range that we're expecting for all of the county's debt. And that would start not this year in 2025, but with your budget you do in the fall of 25 for payments due in 2026. And you can see that gradually that levy is expected to stay the same unless the county makes a decision in future years that additional projects are necessary to be financed using debt, and then we'll see that change. And then when we get out into the late or mid to late 2030s and then the early 2040s, that's where you see there's a dramatic drop off in the county's future or total debt payments. And again, this chart is a chart really to give you an idea of where we sit today as the county, or if the county decides that you are exploring doing additional financing, we will prepare models for you that show what the impact of that future debt would be up and above the existing and the proposed new issue that we're talking about this morning. Yes, bless you. Any questions on this particular chart in terms of the tax levy impact of the proposed financing?
So when is the highway department paid off? That's the big decrease in 2040?
Yes, correct, sir.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
That's right. Yep. All right. Any other questions on that? Otherwise, the last thing I wanted to go through with the board is the timeline. Thank you, Jody. So this morning, step number one was to discuss the finance plan and, of course, get county board feedback on that. We are already started the process, pending your approval on moving forward with this plan, of putting together what we call the official statement. That is a document, much like a mutual fund prospectus, general financial information about this particular issue and the finances of the county in general. That document is, we use it for two purposes. One is it's used by potential purchasers of the bond issue to get a better sense of what the county is proposing and what the financial situation of the county is. And two, we also go about the process of updating the county's bond rating. Barron County has an excellent bond rating of AA, just 2 steps below the very best rating, AAA, AA plus, and AA. So you have an excellent bond rating, and the county has had that rating for some time because you've been very well financially managed. We would update that rating, and we would send out that official statement to prospective investors by the end of March. The idea is the morning of, I think it's April 14th, we'll take competitive bids. And then at your meeting, the morning of April 15th, we would have those bids for your full review of the county board. And at that point, you'd be asked to accept the best bid, should you be comfortable with that best bid, and lock into the interest rates as I discussed. From there, a couple weeks later, kind of like a closing, if you were to refinance or buy a new home, there's an actual closing, and then on that date, the county would receive the borrowed funds. And a day later than that, as I'd mentioned, some of this is to pay off a short-term issue that you did in 2024. That issue can be completely paid off on May 7th. Okay. And the other reason I discussed this timeline with the committee is we wanted to ensure that your decisions on particularly the Sallyport project, which is the biggest of the new projects, will be completely locked in, and the board as a majority is comfortable with that project, such that when we're at the point of taking those bids on the financing, we're not in any dispute about whether the project itself has been accepted by this board and is going to be moving forward.
And it's important to emphasize what he just said, because today, you know, we if anybody has any concerns or questions or is not comfortable with going forward with what's being presented, that needs to be addressed today, because we don't want to come up here in April and all of a sudden somebody's changed their mind and brought up some concern. So it's, you know, again, we want to, if you have anything to say negatively about this project, it should be done today. You have a question, Supervisor Cook?
I do. So if I understand Sean, though, right now, we will actually see the bids of the Sallyport, and this board will determine whether or not we are comfortable loaning that money prior to signing an obligation to borrow the money.
Yes.
Right.
Correct. Yep.
I'm good.
Supervisor Fowler.
I had a note even before that, just on our agenda item number 20 for future agenda items. I think an overview of the project would be good. And by that, I mean, number of persons per year coming and going. What's the need to demonstrate that, just so we can answer questions intelligently as well. And then to see what the plan actually looks like.
Could we address some of that maybe today? Yeah. Yeah. Do you want, maybe we should let Sean finish and then have the sheriff? Let's do it that way. But yeah, Chris knows this stuff inside and out.
Mr. Chairman, from my standpoint, I think we've completely finalized the timeline. I think it's just the motion to proceed with at this point.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Good. Supervisor Vaughn?
So if I understood right, we're going to open the bids on April 14th and we're going to vote on the 15th? So we won't even see them before we get here to review them?
That's not on the Sally Port, that's on the interest rates.
That's on the interest rate. You will see the bids for Randy Cook, or Mr. Cook had the right thing. You will see the bids. We're going to open the bids next Tuesday. We'll have a ballpark idea. Wold has to go through those bids on Tuesday. It's going to go to law enforcement. We do have a law enforcement meeting on Thursday. We'll be able to see them.
The 27th, right?
The 27th. Yep. Next, the 27th, we have a law enforcement meeting. I'm not sure. We're going to put it on as an agenda item. If Wold can get them done and okayed, we'll look at them. But we'll know a ballpark, or we'll know exact number on that Tuesday. We just need Wold to go through them to make sure they're accurate and it entails the whole total project, so we don't have any surprises. If not, we will then meet on March 20th from a law enforcement standpoint. Then it'll go to executive, and then it'll go to county board in April. So there'll be 3 kicks at this cat before we go to Sean's world on that.
Supervisor Schradel had a question.
Yeah, I haven't been asked you a couple of questions in lieu of what happened out at Highway Department building. What is it? I don't know if the sheriff has this. What is the total square footage of that project?
I do. I don't have the square footage of the total project. The existing Sallyport, I've been asked, that was 1,075 square foot. It's at an angle. The new Sallyport is 2,180 square footage. That's just the Sallyport portion of that. The most important part of this project is the video visitation. We wanted a new Sallyport. We need a new Sallyport. It fits an ambulance at an angle. Captain Evanson is here and can verify anything that I'm mess up on here. And we want to build this. It's going to fit a bus. Do we bring buses into the Sallyport all the time? No. But if we have to for an emergency evacuation, we can. I've been asked the question, what other jails around us have? Burnett County just built a new jail. Their Sallyport holds a bus. Their Sallyport is similar size. We met with the state jail inspector last week because there was some worry that we were building this big, huge building and we don't need it. It is consistent with the size of our neighboring county facilities. It is consistent with the recommendations from the jail inspector, and is consistent with the number of inmates that we hold here. We can't compare ourselves to Rusk County, to Washburn County. We shouldn't even be comparing ourselves to Burnett County, but Burnett County Sallyport is the size of ours, or will be. It's very close, fits a bus. Our Sallyport is going to fit 4 squad cars.
And Chris, it isn't just the Sallyport. You may want to explain what else is entailed
the
in
video
this.
visitation. And Judge Babler said he couldn't stay, but I asked him to stay. He is in favor of this. We cannot get lawyers to handle cases because we don't have enough video visitation booths in our jail. We don't have space to put video visitation booths in our jail. That is the main focus of this project, is the video visitation booths, which will increase the courts and probation's effort. It's called a PSI, a pre-sentence investigation. They take hours to do. We don't like them done in person. We can be done in person, but they're faster if they're done by video, because different agents traveling all over the state to do
Well,
these. So
lawyers don't want to drive up here.
lawyers don't want to drive up here. So the judge is in favor of this project. Not that that means anything, but we've thought about this from a whole perspective, from all the aspects of the justice system. We've talked about this. So we're not building the Taj Mahal. This isn't the highway shop. I understand where we're coming from, where you guys are coming from. I want checks and balances. I'm 100% behind all the checks and balances you want to put on this. This is the project that we need to get done to improve our Sally Port and improve our video visitation. That is the only two things we're doing in this project.
Supervisor Schradel.
Yeah, the other two questions these people had was, what's the total cost, just a Sally Port, not any of this roofing or anything like that?
The Sally Port bids, we're hoping come in at about $2.1 million.
2.1, and that is a furnished, in other words, you'll be able to, after that's 2.1 is spent, you'll be able to go right in there with all the necessary equipment.
That we've included Lance, we've included our maintenance, we've included IT, everything that we can think of, from door locks to windows to everything.
So it's fully furnished then.
And there is no furnishings, to be honest. Where this is a garage and 4 rooms that have computer monitors for a video visitation. So from furnishing standpoint, there isn't a lot of furnishing we have to worry about. The heating, there's a new driveway that has to come around the building. That's included in this. But it'll be, we've already spent $400,000, so it'll be about a $2.5 million project. So, because you guys have already had us spend about $400,000 on this project.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You bet.
Any other questions for the sheriff? Supervisor Cook.
So Chris, what you're saying is we're adding on about 1,100 square feet.
Correct. And we're repurposing that old Sally Port is where the video visitation will be. Correct? There's a small, because we have to get an exit to make it safety and meet the standards, codes. So.
And is this structure going to look similar to the rest? I mean,
Yes, it's going to match.
We could have done this like a pole barn style, heated floors, everything in there for probably 500,000.
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
On the original Justice Center plans, I was told that they had a bigger Sally Port designed, and that was part of the chopping block that came about.
Okay, I have the answer to that. The jail inspector would not approve a pole barn, so that is why. So that's why the cost is so high, because we have to. Captain Evanson makes a good point. It's Justice Center. It's Justice. A security detention facility equipment has to be used. So,
I'm not talking your traditional pole barn. For 500,000, you get something you can live in. Anyway, thank you.
And one last point, and Chairman Buchanan, former Chairman Buchanan of our Law Enforcement Committee, wanted to pay cash for this project. We didn't want to be standing in front of you doing this. We've raised over $3 million in out-of-county revenue for this project over the past 10 years. You guys are using that money to reduce the tax levy. This is the point. I didn't want to be standing up here asking you for money, because that wasn't my plan. Our plan was to borrow this, put it in the bank, and pay for it. Supervisor Olson was on that committee. So some of you were on that committee. We've changed the output of that committee. That's 100% okay. But my goal was to pay for this with our out-of-county revenue. We're using that to a way smarter benefit. That's why you have Jody and Jeff, to help the taxpayers out. So we did take in another $600,000 last year in out-of-county revenue. That's where some of this busing. We're housing from Wausau and Duluth, or Superior still, not Duluth, I'm sorry, Superior. So we're still housing about 35 to 45 inmates a month out of county. And that's
they bring in, it brings in a lot of revenue. And
brings in a lot of revenue.
I've been told from other counties that they'll come to Barron County and house their prisoners because of the programs that we have in our jail. So Tim's doing a great job there with that as well. Supervisor Schradel, another question?
What I'm hearing here, this is basically a long-term pass-through. The money you're taking in from out-of-county revenue is going to, it has helped fund this and will continue, right?
Right. And again, the money isn't there anymore, but yes, that was our goal. But yes, we needed to do this. This was when we built this Justice Center 23 years ago, this was where the cut happened. 23 years ago. I'm standing before you saying we shouldn't have cut back then. I wasn't the sheriff then. We shouldn't have cut then. It would have cost us $200,000 to put this $2 million addition on. But we cut that because you guys wanted to reduce, not you, I don't know that any of you were on here, the Justice Center at that time. So
Couple of them were.
not that I'm trying to age anybody, but this is important for law enforcement. It's important for the safety and security of the jail. We don't have the space right now for this, and that's why we're doing it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Yeah, I have one more. I've received calls on this issue, which I was surprised, but.
Really, it's been in the paper. There's a lot. I anticipated more.
Well, they are comparing this to the highway department.
I understand that.
People talk around the county, and there's some other, issues that we have, and they don't want this to become one. So currently, right now, obviously we don't have a bus. How often do we have 2 cars in the Sallyport at one time?
Actually, very often. Many times we have vehicles waiting outside to come in because we're plugged up into Sallyport with other vehicles. So it happens weekly at least. I dare say daily, but it happens weekly for sure.
Right, and those are the types of questions that people are asking. Like
Those
Craig
are
is
great
saying.
questions. And again, I don't mind being compared for the checks and balances to the highway shop. I don't want to be compared to the highway shop. This is how I feel. But I understand where you guys are.
I wouldn't park your car in there on 30-degree below 0 days.
I don't park in my car in there. But I appreciate the questions. If anybody has any questions or a taxpayer has questions, have them call me. We are as transparent as they will be on this project and what Sean has put together. Again, don't want to mess that part of it up because I think the timeline that we've created for this, we've waited. We were going to do this. Jeff and I talked about this. We wanted to wait because we think it's better for bidding. Wold has been a very good partner with this because I think it's better for the bidding. And talking to Pete before the meeting, Pete Schneider, we talked about some of the bids that he's seen in local projects are coming in at or below, so I think this is an advantage to the taxpayers of Barron County. I understand it's spending $2.5 million. I totally understand that. So, but for where we are with Sean and his project, I think it's going to be a good project for the citizens.
And it isn't just outsiders. We've got Supervisor Schneider, Supervisor Turcott, who are on that committee, and Supervisor Olson, who's the head of law enforcement, been thoroughly involved in this whole process all along. And those two, Craig and Pete, have got a lot of knowledge in that area. So,
I have a question.
Supervisor Patty Anderson.
Yeah, I just have something to say. If any of your constituents want to know anything about the project and they're comparing it to the highway department, just remind them that the aging kitchen was under budget and on time. So tell them that we know how to do it.
Appreciate
And I'll talk to them about the highway if they want to talk about it too. So anyway, I know I shouldn't have brought that up, but I will. Okay, any other questions? Okay, at the end here, I'd like a motion that we proceed with what the presentation that Ellers has presented and what our law enforcement committee and sheriff's department has outlined for the Sallyport. You're not authorizing the debt, the project yet, but you're telling the public and the rest of us that, hey, we're not against this project. If it goes like we have outlined, we're going to do it. So could I get a motion to that effect? Well, see, putting it in there, that's right. John, can they do that motion if it's not on the agenda? It's a motion to basically proceed with what's outlined by Ellers and the sheriff's department. Okay. All right, I'm just trying to get it so we're, if anybody's got anything against this project, please bring it up now. I'll drop the motion part of it, but please say it now because we don't want to mess up this timeline with what we're doing.
I think, Louis, the only concern that I would have is once we see the bids. If the bids are over, then then I have huge
Oh,
concerns. 'cause
so
we-
will,
I
so
don't
will
want to
every
start.
supervisor in this room.
Right. I don't want to start because at the highway department, your bid was 25 million already over.
Yeah,
So, and we went ahead, and I don't want to do that.
yeah, I hear you. Here, I don't see anybody against this project as presented so far. Supervisor Stradle?
Well, I'm not against it, but I hate to hearken back to the highway shop, but there's a lot of consternation out there yet about that, and that's why I've had these questions here, and I've had some just people that just curious too.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I guess hearing no real negative thing against it, we'll proceed with what we have outlined. Okay, item number 10, approval of the emergency fire wardens for Barron County. Just need a motion, they were in your package, just need a motion that we approve those. Motion by Supervisor Rogers, second by Supervisor Wenzel. Any concerns? Seeing none, let's vote. Okay, Audrey says yes, Kathy says yes, all right. All right, so that passed, 28 yes and 1 absent, thank you. Item number 11, a resolution authorizing roof replacement at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, Barron County campus, at Student Center and the gymnasium. Now, that resolution's in the packet that the committee's been working with the Rice Lake School District and John, our corp counsel, to get an agreement with the school district. That isn't finalized quite yet, is it? But it's close. I mean, it is as far along as it can be, but a part of that, they being the Rice Lake School District, wants the roofs replaced on both the gymnasium and the student center before entering into a deal with us. And those roofs are in need of major repair, right, Jeff?
Yep, and I put the date that they were, so they're, 20 years old.
Supervisor Cook.
Jeff, can you explain why we're going to borrow these and we don't put things like this in the budget?
We put this as part of the overall borrowing because the 150,000 that we had for one of these roofs, we're going to use it for this roof. So we're just going to switch money from, we're just going to spend the money, but we're going to keep a new roof on this building to keep it longer. So we had 150,000 budgeted, and with this potential borrowing and with the way the wording of the agreement is with Rice Lake, I'm incumbent to put it in this borrowing, because if they give us back, they don't continue to use it, we'll get our money back from them.
Okay, but typically we could put this in the budgeting versus taking out a 20-year loan.
Right, but we had a tight budget year, so, and this has all come up since the budget was passed, so that's another reason to do it. I want to see this project done, and Steve's wants to see it done, and we're pretty close to having an agreement with Rice Lake Schools, so I understand.
Yep.
This is a way to get it done.
Okay, a motion by Supervisor Banks, second by Supervisor Olson to approve this resolution.
If you have questions, Steve is here, but I put everything in the resolution, self-explanatory, what we're trying to do.
Steve does an excellent job. He stays on top of everything. I don't know how he has all that time, but any other questions? Not, let's vote. That passed by a 2/3 majority with 27 yes, 1 abstain, and 1 absent. Who was the abstention? Oh, okay. So Supervisor Cook abstained, all right. Okay, item number 12, resolution to amend the supervisory district due to the annexation to the city of Rice Lake. Motion by Supervisor Moen, second by Supervisor Gores. I think that it was in there that, they have to amend those districts, and I know Ron Dazukis and John, our corp counsel, have done a lot of work on this, so, I can't dispute what they're doing. Supervisor Banks. You got your mic on?
Does Rice Lake have to pay a township for that lost revenue? How does that work?
I don't know exactly what their arrangement was. They had they both entered in, they'd been working on this for a long time to clean up the parcels. The way it happened was that mostly on the one lake side where the parcel followed the not the property lines, but just followed the section line. And so you ended up having houses in the town of Rice Lake, but a very small parcel of it was along the lake was in the city of Rice Lake. So the town and the city worked together on this. They finally got it all straightened out. And because of the changes that they entered into, we had to rezone some of those properties so they matched up. And secondly, now we have to clean up the supervisory district. So I don't know what their arrangements were as far as cost sharing, but as far as the cleaning it up, they did all that, and we're just making the districts align with their changes.
Supervisor Gores.
This redistricting, is this determined by population, or what is it? Why is it this way?
So when you change whether it's in the city or it's in the township, it changes the voting district it's in. So if somebody, there is a couple of these that there's somebody actually lives in. So because they're no longer in the city or no longer in the town, depending on which way it falls, we have to align the supervisory districts so that if it's in the city, it has to be in one of the city districts. If it's in the township, it's in the township. So it's not making any changes because of population. Oh, it might be. I mean, if somebody was living in the town and now is in the city or vice versa, it might be one or two people, but that's why the changes are made to the districts.
Supervisor Cook.
Yeah, this did go before the zoning board, and so this is, most of those.
And executive.
And executive. It went through where the house was, and rather than somebody getting two tax statements, they're going to get one tax statement. The one was very insignificant. So, and it just, only in terms of votes, it's just a couple. It's not a big part because most of the homes were in the town of Rice Lake already. So it's.
And I think it's a kind of general cleanup that's been around for many years as well. Okay, it's been around a while.
Let's not rush into anything.
Okay, so we got the motion and second, right? Is there any further questions? Seeing none, let's vote. Oh, man, it's one. Okay, Bun's a yes. Amanda had to leave, I know. Yeah, Amanda told us she has to go to work. Okay, passed by majority with 27 yes and 2 absent. Thank you. Okay, item number 13, an ordinance amending the zoning code, real estate, town of Rice Lake, to establish the zoning classifications, and that's just to be in lockstep with what we just did in the previous motion. Motion by Supervisor Rogers, second by Supervisor Wenzel. Any questions or concerns? If not, let's vote.
Bun's got a thumbs up again.
Bun's got a yes. Okay, 27 yes and 2 absent. Thank you. So that passed. Item number 14, the ordinance revising section 2.04, subparent D, subparent 2, subparent C of the Barron County Rules and Procedures. I think that was in our packet. Motion by Supervisor Heller, seconded by Supervisor Turcott. And, it's what we're trying to do there. We've discussed this extensively at the executive. We're trying to get it so that we get enough people to be at some of our committee meetings and we can have a quorum. Because if you remember right, back a few years ago when we redid our rules and procedures, We allowed virtual meetings at the county board level, but not at the committee levels. And we've found that some employers would prefer that if their employees on the county board, that they actually go virtually. It saves them travel time and whatever. So it'll be more conducive, I think, to getting maybe, not younger is maybe not the right word, but people are still employed to be on the board. And it's just, I think it's a good thing. Any other questions? Okay, if not, let's vote.
Number 15, you asked me to read a statement.
Yeah.
One is thumbs up, Jess.
One's got a yes.
Thank you.
All right. Not abstaining, huh? Okay, that passed by a majority, 26 yes, 2 absent. Who was the abstention? Oh, Patty, okay. All right. Then number 15, progress and financial update on the Barron County highway facilities. I guess that's.
Yep.
Is it me?
So-
Oh, you want to go ahead?
me to read this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the Highway Finance Committee met for the last time. The financials are in your packet. $4,990 was the final payment to Right Way Caulking paid on the week of February 3rd. In the budget, there was $241,050 for press brake, drill, shear, and lathe. The committee approved a new lathe and milling machine for $88,000 plus electrical of $7,500. These expenditures were included in the original budgeted amounts, so those were under budget, so that's returned. The committee approved DDC controls not to exceed $100,000. Steve Olson is working on this ASAP. He's working with Bartengale plus another company. Hopefully this work is to be completed this summer. That's what we've been waiting on, and we'd like to get it done. This fund should be closed by September. This committee met for the final time, and the final minutes for this committee are to be approved by the Highway Committee at the March meeting. So we'll hold this open and this fund open until $100,000 is paid, and then Jody will close it per general accepted accounting principles. So that basically closes out this fund for all intents and purposes.
So go back into the highway
Go back to
fund
the highway
balance.
fund.
Where we go. And-
Aaron,
Yep.
And maybe I missed it, so this does cover what we're looking for in terms of the maintenance being able to
The
control
data
all the.
controls, yes.
Yep. And Bartengale, right, but Steve's looking at another company, and, we're trying to do open source instead of having to pay like a Honeywell or a Johnson Controls. That's what we'd like to get to. So that's what's been some of the holdup here.
Some of the Bartengale previous top guys forming something else. So we're looking at all the different avenues, but these are very comfortable that it will not exceed, or can exceed 100 grand. Cannot, yeah, can't. We had a motion to that effect. Supervisor Vaughn,
Did you say whatever's left over goes back to highway?
yes. That's where it came from.
Yes, we took the money, the
That's where it
overage
came
out
from.
of the highway fund balance, so it would just be a natural, it would go back to that.
See, we took that, out of the highway fund balance, all that overage, not out of the general fund.
Right, we took out 4.6 million. And I see there, it does show that looks like we took out 4.873 million.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we took initially the 4.6 and then the 745 after that for the paving and all that. Which was primary.
It was before the project was started. The 744, 955 was approved before the project was ever started. Some of
Yeah.
that was for asbestos, and some of that was for getting a hold of swapping the property with Federated Co-op.
Oh.
So that was way before this project started.
I mean, it's been that way since you've been looking
But
at
I
these.
think Louis is correct. We ended up doing a deal where we swapped a payment that they owed us for blacktopping that facility. Maybe I'm all wet, but.
Not from the
How-
general fund didn't pay for
No,
it.
the general fund,
Okay.
didn't the highway department owe? Okay, never mind.
No,
That's not.
yeah.
I see your point, but that's not how.
It's all,
It
it-
was approved separate before this project was ever started.
Yeah, those two funding amounts have been on this sheet and funding project forever. Yep. Any further questions? Okay. Item number 16, American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA expenditures. There's a sheet in our packet. Shows we have, what, 431,000 plus left in there, and everything's going okay, Jody? Any questions on that? Okay, Supervisor Cook?
So when I run down this list and I look at the kitchen, we encumbered 2.145 million. It looks like the actual expense was 2.145 million. I thought it came in under budget.
It
In order for that to go back in the pot, we had to put that amount in there. So, I mean, when I close out these on the financials, I put that amount. So then it does go back in there. I could clarify that on the financials a
Okay.
little better for the next.
And when we say available, that is available of unencumbered. That's not how much we're sitting on. That's just how much has not been encumbered.
Correct, yes.
Yep, go ahead,
Although
Jeff.
the highway department Supervisor Cook did talk how our highway commissioner is putting together a plan for the balance of the 491 to be used with the 6-foot to 20-foot culverts and bridges. The highway committee, looking at the highway committee members, we talked about this at the last meeting, and we're going to bring it forward at some time because of the state change in the state funding. There's real need for culverts and bridges now with those being identified by the state. So that's all. That's you for another day.
Okay. Item number 17, report from the county administrator. Who did? Bill, do you have a question?
I just want, excuse me, a matter of how soon do we have to spend this ARPA money, or is there no?
There's no rush.
Thank you.
As far as my update, the write-off of the tax certificates was approved by the executive committee. I put the information on health insurance increases. If you watch Amazon Prime or you get Amazon Prime, it was very interesting over the weekend. They had a very interesting film documentary, and what was the #1 cause of increases across the United States of America for health insurance? GLP-1 drugs. It's a very good short little presentation. I didn't know that they were going to follow my lead. I didn't get any calls from anybody from Amazon on that. So that's the #1 drug increases. One of the cost increases. That's all I have for updates and my appointments. I'd ask you to approve all the appointments.
Okay, the appointments are 18A, Health and Human Services Board, Port Mary Mathis, and B, Health and Human Services, appoint Petty Morgan, and Law Enforcement Committee, appoint Patty Anderson to replace Bob Anderson, who retired or resigned from the committee. Okay, a motion by Supervisor Olson, seconded by Supervisor Fowler. Question by Supervisor Guselik.
I was just wondering, when we have a committee opening like that, why there's not more opportunity for everyone to have a chance? What's the policy on that?
There is an opportunity. Everybody has a chance. It's I guess my job to appoint, to fill the committees. Jeff appoints for the commissions and other boards.
So there was an email that came out?
No, there was not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. Bill Efforts, did he? Okay, it passed by a majority of 27 yes and 2 absent. Thank you. Number 19, claims, petitions, and correspondence. We have none. Suggestions for future agenda items.
Yes, if the clerk could please put on 3/4 affirmative vote on the Sallyport. There will be a resolution drafted by Quarles and Brady, and that's the one we'll need the 3/4 affirmative vote according to Sean. So if it's not, doesn't pass, well, we're done. We don't need to open any more bids because we're done.
Okay. I guess we're at the point, by unanimous consent, we'll adjourn the meeting at 10:30. Thank you.